Hi everybody, Michelle here. Now today, as we get close to drawing this program to a close, I want to share another mindfulness practice, and one that's kind of a basic practice for many experienced mindfulness practitioners. In our other practices, we typically steered our focus to our breath or to our sensations or thoughts or feelings or inner characters, stuff like that. But today we're not going to steer our focus anyway. We're going to sit with an open mind, just noticing and observing whatever shows up in our experience. So begin, as we always begin, by getting comfortable and relaxing into your position and allowing your eyes to close. Taking a few nice breaths and just connecting with the observing part of yourself, just as you have in so many of our other practices. Either seeing yourself just sitting there, or sitting in front of all the TV screens like we did in one of our other practices. Whichever brings you more in touch with yourself as observer. Just an interested and curious observer. Connecting with the sense of yourself in your body. The outline of your body and the substance of your body. And your breath flowing through your body. And the enduring and observing part of you that's present in your body. Sitting in your observing state with an attitude of curiosity, but without expectation. Just allowing whatever spontaneously arises to arise. There's no effort required. And as you sit, just notice what shows up in your consciousness. And whatever you notice, you can label. I'm aware of a part of me that is whatever's happening, whatever you're thinking, feeling, or sensing. Or you could say, right now, I'm aware of whatever, just noticing and labeling whatever shows up. Not sending it away. Not doing anything, just noticing and observing, being with whatever shows up. Sitting and noticing in your observing self with a curious and open, friendly, warm and compassionate attitude. Noticing and labeling. Right now, what are you aware of? Not holding on to anything and not forcing anything away. Just staying connected with your observing self. Observing. Not getting caught up in judging, but noting any judgment if it arises. And as you continue to observe your experience right here in the moment, notice that with all this noticing, you remain the noticer. And if something keeps popping up, you can ask yourself if this is something that needs to be addressed right now. What do I need right now? And see what happens. And if it's just something that keeps popping up, you can simply notice that it keeps popping it up. Acknowledge that and continue observing. And you don't have to relax. You're here to be with whatever shows up, to be curious and interested in getting to know what's going on in there, but also in having space and freedom. And the way we build that muscle is by observing whatever shows up, not engaging, but noticing and labeling and remaining connected with yourself as the observer. Just observing. And for the next several minutes, I'm going to remain silent, and you can continue being mindful in the here and now with an open focus on whatever shows up. Now, taking the time you need, just bring your attention back to the room, opening your eyes and stretching out a bit if that feels right. As I mentioned earlier, open focus practice is what many seasoned mindfulness practitioners use as their everyday practice. And maybe the mind is quiet from time to time, but even with continued practice, it's often pretty active. Here's a little example of what can go on when I do an open focus practice. I take a few breaths and I notice myself as the observer, and then I notice that I'm not the observer anymore, and then I'm wondering about something, and I notice that, and then I might get lost in thought for a little while, and I notice that, and then I notice an itch, and then I notice maybe a tightness in a muscle, and then I find that I'm planning my day. Then I notice the sound of a car driving by, and then I hear a noise outside and I wonder what that might be. And then there's just a little period of quiet where I'm just sitting in open observance. And then I realize that I've been replaying a story that happened yesterday. Then I find myself planning again. And then I notice that I sure seem to be drawn to planning today. And then I wonder how much longer this practice is going to be going on for. And I wonder if my timer is working. And then I just come back to observing. And then I notice an itch again, etc., etc., etc. But I keep coming back, and that's the point. And sometimes I'm completely in the role of the observer, observing what's pulling my attention or just what my senses pick up. And then sometimes I notice that my attention's been drawn away for quite some time. But I keep noticing and observing and coming back, and that's the practice. Hooray! For most of us who are strengthening our mindfulness muscle for the sake of developing inner resources so we can experience personal growth and greater success, happiness, and fulfillment, we never really quiet the minds, and that isn't the goal. The goal is to be the wise leader of our minds, to build integration, to harness and direct the power of neuroplasticity, and to gain freedom. And a busy mind is a normal mind. I'll remind you of one of the first things I mentioned when we were starting this practice. Mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment without judgment or evaluation. Whatever your mind is doing, that's what it's doing. And that's the practice. And even if it seems like it couldn't really be helpful, it is. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Take a few opportunities for mindfulness, for your breath, and for gratitude. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.